Okay, so picture this. You walk into a room in Nashville and it is filled with women who get it and get you. Women who know what it's like to pour their heart into a microphone week after week. Women who are building businesses, raising families, chasing big goals, and doing it all with a podcast as their main piece of long form content. So that was me just 1 week ago at the Podcasting Moms Conference hosted by two incredible human beings, Kate Howard and Amanda Bennett. And I have to be honest with you. I walked in not even thinking about how much I was going to learn because I was on the panel. I spoke on the panel and I was just nervous. I was just a bundle of nerves. And I got up there and I literally looked to my left and I looked to my right and I thought to myself, what am I doing here? Like, I don't belong here. These women have done amazing things. All that to say, it ended up being such an amazing experience. And I want you to hear this, that we are so quick to compare ourselves to other women who seem to be doing it all. But once I got into conversations with them, they weren't doing it all. They were doing what made sense, what moved the needle, and what felt good to them to give them a life that wasn't all just work. It was work and family and rest and friendships and things that were fulfilling. So anyways, the panel was amazing. It was so wonderful. And then I got to meet so many awesome female entrepreneurs, podcasters, moms, all of the things. And what I wanted to do was, for those of you who couldn't make it to be there with us, I wanted to share my 5 biggest takeaways that came from being in that room. And I think some of these things are going to challenge you a little bit in a good way, because the conversation around podcasting is definitely shifting, right? And I want to make sure that we are a part of that conversation. We are ahead of it and that there's no gatekeeping, right? So let's get into it. I'm going to share my 5 biggest takeaways. There were so many more, but these were my favorite. Also, you'll have to excuse me because I am on week 2 of having a sinus infection, unfortunately, I've never had one before. And, I think between just getting sick a couple weeks ago and then flying to Nashville and being pregnant, it's like the perfect storm. I'm on the mend now, but I still sound congested. Wow. I said that funny, but, the reason I want to tell you this is because one of these takeaways is all about infusing real life into your experience when you get on the mic. So here I am showing up congested, stuffed up and all. I don't know that my VA is going to be able to fix that. So hopefully you can bear with me. Cause this is a really juicy episode, but let's dive in. All right. Number 1. And honestly, this one set the tone for the entire conference. Are you ready? Impact over vanity metrics. So here's what I mean. When you get into a room full of female podcasters together, women who are doing this at a high level, I mean, we have podcasters who have been doing it since, 2015 to just starting with millions of downloads to maybe 20 downloads an episode. Like, it all runs the gamut. But do you know what we're not talking about? What we're not focusing on? Their download numbers. They're not walking around going, oh my gosh, I hit 10,000 downloads within one day or whatever it might be. That's just not the conversation anymore. What we are talking about is the listeners who sent a DM saying your episode changed how I run my business. The women who finally launched her offer because something you said on your podcast gave her a push that she needed. The email that came in from somebody who said, I've listened to every single episode. I binged your show. I'm signing up for your program. That is what's happening for top podcasters right now. And not even top podcasters. That's what happened. That's what's happening for podcasters who are in it for the long run, for podcasters who see the bigger picture, and for podcasters who are committed to creating something that really has legs, that can really move the needle, especially for us female entrepreneurs who are using our podcast as the cornerstone of our marketing, right? You've heard me say it before. It's not about how big the number is. It's about how deep the impact goes. Truly. I want to say that again. It's not about how big the number is for your downloads. It's about how deep the impact goes, right? And yes, we do want to track our metrics. We want to understand which direction they're moving in, what's working, what's not. Like, it's data. It's good, juicy data. It is not the end all be all, right? And I think so many of us have been conditioned to chase vanity metrics for years, right? The downloads, the chart ranking, the follower count. And listen, I am not saying those things don't matter at all. They do, and they have a place. But when you are in a room with women who actually are moving the needle in their business through their podcast, the conversation is about impact, period. It's about how is my content actually changing lives? So, my friend, if you have been feeling discouraged because your numbers aren't where you want them to be, and listen, I think there'll always be a little piece in the back of our mind as podcasters that's like, why can't I get the 10,000 downloads right now? Right? Right now. But I want you to hear this. Start paying attention in this moment right now. Start paying attention to the messages in your inbox. Start paying attention to who is showing up in your world because of what you said. That is the real metric, and that's what matters. All right, number 2, and this one builds on what I just said, is shifting from the focus on downloads to conversions. So yes, impact and conversions, right? Because here's the thing. You can have 1,000 downloads on an episode, but none of those listeners are doing anything beyond pressing play. Well, we've got a problem if that's the situation, right? And that was a huge piece of the conversation at the conference. Like, women were asking bigger, better questions, not just how do I get more downloads, but where do my episodes actually lead? How well are my listeners converting into email subscribers? How am I leading them to my offers? And what does that data actually show me? So do you see there's a totally different conversation happening there? And honestly, it's a much more powerful one. And it's one that is the reason I got into what I do, right? It's the reason I do what I do, because that is where the real impact happens. You do not need 1 million listeners to have a thriving business. You just don't. So when you start tracking conversions, when you look at how many listeners are clicking your, whether it's your show links or going to the URL you're providing, taking your quiz, joining your email list, how many are actually joining from the podcast? You start to see the true power of your show. And sometimes that number is going to surprise you. Sometimes you'll realize that one episode with 200 downloads brought in 40 new email subscribers, and another episode with 800 downloads brought in 5. So that tells us something, right? That data is pure gold. And it kind of takes the weight off, right? So I want to challenge you this week. Go look at your numbers, but not just the download metrics, right? Look at your email list growth. Look at your click-through rates from your show notes. Look at how many people are actually moving from listener to subscriber to buyer. Ask the people who are buying how they found out about you. My guess is a lot came from the podcast, probably a lot more than you think, because that is the story your podcast is really telling, right? That's how they're getting to know you. That's how they're getting to trust you. And once you know that story and you have that trust, you can start making smarter, more intentional decisions about your content. And again, it takes off the pressure and it turns that knob in your head. It kind of quiets that voice that says you don't have enough downloads, you should give up. Okay. All right. Takeaway number 3. I could honestly talk about this one for 1 hour because it has me so fired up. And it's nothing new, because we have been doing this far before COVID, far before everything. This is the same tried and true strategy, and it's collaboration. Nothing, and I mean nothing, beats collaborating with other women in this space. I know that might sound obvious. You've probably heard people say, collaborate more 1 million times. I have, but I need you to hear it differently today. Okay. So I say this to my daughter. I say, let's put our listening ears on, which she's kind of at her sassy point. So she's like, I don't want to, but it worked for a little bit. So if you are somewhere else, put your listening ears on, come back. Because what I experienced in Nashville wasn't just networking. It wasn't surface level, let's swap business cards type energy, which can actually be very masculine type energy. It was women genuinely pouring into each other, sharing what's working, being honest with what's not working, opening doors for each other without any expectation of something in return. And here's what I noticed. The women whose podcasts are actually growing the fastest, they're not doing it alone. They're the ones who are deep in community with other female entrepreneurs and podcasters. They're the ones doing podcast swaps, going into each other's communities, doing trainings, pouring into them, speaking at conferences together, connecting with each other with guests, sharing each other's content, talking about more than just business, talking about life, being authentic. It's this beautiful cycle of I'm going to pour into you and you pour into me and we're going to rise together. Let's get that energy going, right? And I think as women, especially, we thrive in that kind of environment. We weren't meant to build our business in a silo. We just weren't. It's like the community that we think about years ago. And obviously I'm pregnant. And so there's a lot of conversation. Like my midwife and I were just talking about how when we were raising babies and we had toddlers running around and we were pregnant and we had tiny babies, we were in community and we were very rarely raising our kids alone, and we shouldn't be building our businesses alone because that's the hard way. That's really hard. It's exhausting. It's mentally and physically difficult and frustrating, and your numbers will suffer because of it, right? We weren't meant to build our businesses and our podcast alone in our closet, which, let's be real, most of us literally are doing it because we're trying to carry so many things. So the extra lift of collaboration can sometimes feel heavy, right? So here's what I want you to do. If you're not currently in community with other female entrepreneurs, podcasters, whether it's a live event, an online community, a mastermind, whatever it looks like, I need you to find your people. It's like that song. I'm not going to sing it, but you got to find your people. That one. Okay. I did sing it a little bit. Reach out to somebody whose podcast you admire. Pitch a podcast swap. Talk about life. Talk about business. Offer to do a training in their community. Get on a Zoom with 5 other women who host shows and just talk about like what's working. Get into a room if you can, right? I promise you the growth that comes from collaborating will outpace anything you can do in your business alone, online. Because even Holly Haynes was a speaker at the conference, and she showed us like a graph of where majority of her business growth comes from. And a huge one was speaking at conferences, collaborating with other entrepreneurs, right? That's what we need to focus on. Okay, number 4. And this one hits really close to my heart because I talk about this a lot. We need to be having bigger conversations around AI, specifically as women. So here's what I'm seeing. So at the time that this episode will air, I will have literally just wrapped up my 4-day Glow Up AI edition. And it was filled with amazing female entrepreneurs and podcasters who really want to figure out how to use AI in a smart way without having to figure it out themselves, right? And the reason I want to have this conversation is because here's what I'm seeing. Women are using AI, and that's great. A lot of us are using it to simplify our lives, right? Which is so helpful. Like, what should I make for dinner? Here's what I have in my fridge. And also where you're using it in business, right? To draft social captions, brainstorm episode topics, outline content. Like, I'm right there with you. I love that. I use AI in my business every single day. I think all of us should be and are. But here's where I think we need to level up. Most of us are still using AI at a surface level. We're asking basic questions. We're kind of copying and pasting whatever it spits out. And then we're wondering why our content sounds a little bit off, why it doesn't sound like us, why people are like not converting with it, And what I saw at the conference and what I'm passionate about helping you with is using AI in a bigger, more intentional way. So platforms like Claude allow us to actually train AI to write closer to our voice than ever before. We can feed it our brand documents, our past content, our tone preference so much. And suddenly it's not just giving us generic output. It's giving us something that actually sounds like it. And beyond writing, we can use AI to design faster, to repurpose smarter, to build systems that clear our plates, to set up automated tasks so that we can focus on what we do best, which is showing up for our audience and creating incredible content and pouring our hearts into our audience, right? But here's the key. We're not handing it over to the robot. We're not being lazy about it. We're being intentional. We're learning the tools, we're building the prompts, and we're staying in the driver's seat. And I think as women, we owe it to ourselves to not just dabble in AI, but to really learn it, because the podcasters who are figuring this out, they're going to have so much more bandwidth. They are going to be creating better content in less time because they're going to be less burnt out, right? They're going to have space to actually enjoy the process again instead of feeling buried in a to-do list every single week, which raise your hand if you do, right? So if AI still feels intimidating, or if you're like, I'm just kind of using it surface level, like I have intentions of learning it, I want you to stay tuned, because I will actually be taking the training that I did for my glow up and giving it to you guys if that's something that you want. So stay tuned. I'm going to package that up for you guys so that you can watch the trainings on your own whenever the time works. That's what we need to be doing. Okay. Takeaway number 5, our final one. And honestly, this might be my favorite, which I alluded to this one at the very beginning of this episode, is people are craving real podcast experiences. So here's what I mean. For years, the standard of podcasting has definitely been perfectly polished, perfectly edited audio, where every is removed, every pause is cut, every background noise is eliminated. And there's nothing wrong with a well-produced show. Don't get me wrong. Like, that is not what I'm trying to say here. I'm not saying that you can have crap audio and expect your podcast to grow. But what came up over and over at this conference was the shows that are building loyal audiences right now, especially if you have female listeners, they're the ones that feel real, right? They're the ones where the host's kids walk in during a recording and she says, "What's that, honey? Oh, sure. Yeah, go ahead. That works." Okay. And then gets back to it, where you can hear her laugh genuinely at something, right? Where the conversation goes off on a tangent because something came up that was too good not to talk about. Where it sounds like you're sitting across the table from a best friend having coffee, not listening to a rehearsed TED Talk, where the host is like, "I have a sinus infection, but I wanted to get this content out to you, so here I am," right? And I think that's because the world has gotten really noisy with perfectly curated content, right? Perfect Instagram feeds, reels, everything, AI, perfectly looking people, AI people, right? And we're just over it. We're like, give me the real stuff. Like, let's talk about it. Let's get down to it. They can feel the difference between somebody who's performing and somebody who's just like being themselves. We can tell more and more. So it's this interesting battle where this interesting like season we're in, right? Where it's like, let's use AI, make it sound like us, and let's use our podcast to show up so real, because I know that you could have AI record your episode for you, but it can't pick up on the nuances of who you are and your day to day and your business and things like that, right? Like, I could have AI record the script or the bullets that I put together and, not mention that maybe there's something real going on, or go off on a tangent on something that pops into my head while I'm recording. And that is something that's so cool about podcasting, because we get to do that. So hear me when I say that your audience doesn't want a perfect host. They want a real one. They want to feel like they know you. They want behind the scenes, the bloopers, the real talk. They want to hear actual personality come through, the silly banter, the life interruptions, the raw and unfiltered version of you. Now, please hear me when I say don't banter for an hour and not give them juicy, good content. Still make sure that you have the intentionality behind your episodes, behind your content, and get them what you're promising you're going to get them in that episode. But it's okay to let little things happen, right? So if you've been kind of holding yourself back because you think your episodes have to be flawless or anything like that, let me give you permission to let it go. Record the episode where your dog might bark in the background. Leave in the moment where you lost your train of thought and laugh about it. Like, hello, I have done that so much with pregnancy brain. Share the real stuff because that's what's connecting with the audiences right now. And again, I do not want you to think you can banter and go off a tangent that doesn't serve your audience for an hour. That's not what we're talking about here. Okay. But allow yourself to be raw and real and unfiltered. Okay. I don't think that's going away anytime soon. I think we're going to see more and more of that. Whew. Okay. So there you have it. There's 5 things that I learned in a room full of female podcasters at the Podcasting Moms Conference in Nashville. 1, impact over vanity metrics. Focus on the lives you're changing, not just the numbers. 2, conversions over downloads. Start tracking where your episodes actually lead. 3, nothing beats collaboration. Find your people, pour into them. 4, let's have bigger conversations about AI as women. Stop dabbling and let's start using it intentionally. And 5, people are craving real podcast experiences and honestly, real experiences across all social platforms. So be yourself. Your audience is going to love you. So if any of these hit home, I would love to hear from you. Send me a DM on Instagram. You can reply or join my newsletter, podcastmarketinghub.com/subscribe. Leave a comment on YouTube or whatever, Spotify, whatever feels right to you. Share this episode, follow, subscribe, all the good things. If you know another female podcaster who needs to hear this episode, please share it with her. I think this one was really hit home for me, and I hope it really supports you in a big way. All right, friend, I'm so grateful you're here. Thank you. Keep showing up. Keep doing your work. Keep pouring into your podcast. Trust me, it's worth it. I will see you next week.